IVM.
BQ Big Decisions, the BloombergQuint podcast that helps you make the right financial choices. Have you ever woken up in the morning and felt like you didn't want to go to work? Maybe after a particularly enjoyable weekend. They don't call them the Monday blues for nothing. If you haven't ever felt like that, you either love your job, or you're extremely motivated, or you've just started working. Now, usually, if you do get the Monday blues, there's not much that you can do about it. You've got to pay the bills or put bread on the table. So you get out of bed with a groan and you start the grind. But what if you didn't have to get out of bed? If you were financially independent, that would actually be a choice that would be available to you. Now, if you've never heard about financial independence, I'm sure you're thinking, what is this magical state of being and how do you get there? This is BQ Big Decisions and I'm Alex Matthew. Thanks so much for listening. To tell you more about this very interesting financial concept, I'm joined by certified financial planner Harshvardhan Roongta, founder of Roongta Securities. Thanks so much for joining us, Harsh.
My pleasure, Alex.
Let's talk about this. Financial independence, for somebody who's never heard of the concept before, it sounds like this magical thing. But what is it?
So when we're talking about financial independence, essentially we are saying the choice to do things as per your will. So if you look at the state of affairs that we are in currently, we're talking about we are pursuing a job or we're working with a company only because we're getting a good pay here. Right. Ask yourself a question. Would you be working in this company or doing what you're doing currently if you had a choice?
Are you asking me that question?
I am not asking you this question because I am in your office right now.
No, I love my job. I must tell you, Harsh, I enjoy what I'm doing. But it depends on the day, right? Like I said, if you wake up on a Monday and sometimes you just don't feel like going to work.
Absolutely. So the idea is we're not talking financial independence does not mean that you don't work. It means that you have a choice to pursue something that you like. Right. Which may not be as remunerating as what you're doing currently. However, that does not affect your day-to-day living. So what I mean is, my question again is that would you be doing what you're doing currently if you were financially independent and your expenses are taken care of? Right. You would possibly pursue your hobbies, which is not what you're doing currently.
And that's actually a very important point to make, considering the world that we live in today. It's not something that our parents would have considered, right, Harsh? Because they were of the generation that would start a job and stick with that job right up till their retirement and then retire at 60, 62, 65 in some cases. But they'd stick it out. In today's generation, you change a job sometimes every 2 years.
Absolutely.
But with that change and the higher paychecks come the higher tensions, the higher responsibilities, and all of those worries, right?
Absolutely. So there is exactly where you need to ask yourself, would you be working in the same field if you were given a choice? So what is that choice? You're pursuing that thing today because I'm getting paid here, which is taking care of my day-to-day living.
Right.
The question is, would you be otherwise pursuing something of your choice, which could be less remunerating? So that is financial independence. So you have to work towards a time frame wherein you accumulate, you do what you're doing currently. There's not much choice. However, over a period of time, make sure that you've built enough corpus so that you can start pursuing what you like. It may not be as remunerating as what you're doing currently. And that financial independence can come only if you have created a corpus for yourself.
Okay, so let's talk about this, right? It comes down to the arithmetic, doesn't it? Once you stop working or rather earning a regular paycheck or in fact earning a lower paycheck, how long will your savings take care of your expenses? That's essentially what it boils down
Absolutely
to, right?
Right.
How do you factor that?
So let's look at it in stage wise. So let's look at a person who has just joined his first job. You should have a very clear target in your mind that at a particular age, so suppose you're 25 years in age or 30 years in age, you should have a clear mindset that at about 45 or 50, you may not want to do what you're doing out of force, but you will start pursuing your hobbies, which could be less remunerating. So you know that at 45, you need to quit the corporate job or, just because you're working just for money. So you need an X amount of money at that point in time. Right. Now, at that point in time, you can do a basic calculation to say that if I had a corpus sized, say 2 or 3 crores of rupees, I could start then pursuing something that I like, which does not pay me as well, But the difference in income is taken care by that corpus, the returns on that corpus that I accumulate over a period of time. Okay. So that is the only way you could start doing what you like, despite it not giving you as much as what you're doing otherwise.
Harsh, on an earlier episode of BQ Big Decisions, we did speak about goals. And this is essentially a goal. Financial
Absolutely.
independence, just like retirement or saving for a house, is a goal that you're
correct.
saving towards. And you have to assign a target to it, right? You have to assign an amount to it.
Correct.
Like you were saying, if it is 2 crores or 3 crores, you have to say that over a period of 15 years or 20 years, you have to achieve this target. So essentially, you have to treat it like any other financial goal?
Absolutely. So retirement, if you're talking about retirement and we advise people on retirement, that is the same methodology that we're adopting. We're saying if you're going to retire at 58 or 60 for that matter, and you assume that you will live or you want money regularly up till your age of 80 years of age,
right?
You do a back calculation to say how much do you need at that point in time? What is the retirement corpus you need? And then you start saving towards it.
Right.
So that methodology is going to be applicable for all kind of goals: retirement, early retirement, children's education, marriage for that matter, buying a car for yourself or a house for yourself. What you have to essentially at any point in time do, how much is the cost today? What is it likely to cost at the time you want to buy it? And how much do I need to save so that I can accumulate that target?
Okay. All right. So that more or less covers the concept of how you get to that point where you have the choice. But you made a very important point earlier in this conversation. You said that it is a choice to stop working. It doesn't necessarily mean that you must or
Absolutely.
you should. And that's a very important point to make, right?
So the idea is we're talking of financial independence. Does not make a point to say that you become completely immobile and you stop doing anything.
Right.
That's not the point. So we are saying I'm doing my own thing. I like what I'm doing. I'm pursuing what I like. So you look at the movie called 3 Idiots. We've seen that.
Yes.
Right. So we had a situation where one of the Madhavan wanted to pursue photography.
Yeah.
But he was doing engineering because he was supposed to do engineering and earn a higher income. So that conversation he had with his father very clearly said, so what if I earn less? At least I'll be doing what I like.
But, and interestingly, I was waiting for you to give me a Bollywood reference. But having said that, and I think that's a sign of the generation that we belong to, and even the generations that's younger than us, right?
Absolutely.
Is that, at least for us, our parents, not mine, but a lot of my friends had to deal with the fact that if they were 3 brothers, one would be a doctor, one would be an engineer, one would be a chartered accountant.
Correct.
And that was decided for them.
Absolutely.
They're reaching the point now in their careers, maybe 10 years in or 15 years in, where they now, having earned a lot of money, have that choice of moving to something that they like to.
Exactly. So that's the freedom we're talking about. So financial freedom does not mean that you become lazy and sit at home. It just means that you get a choice to do what you like without worrying about money.
And another important point to make, Harsh, at this point is that you must not stop working, especially because you can have certain emergencies crop up. Context can change very quickly. So you shouldn't be without a job or a paycheck.
No, so, if given a choice, you should never stop working even after retirement. Okay. An ideal body, an ideal mind is a devil's workshop.
Yes.
You can't just sit at home. And your savings in any point in time will never be sufficient. If you're taking an early retirement, if you're retiring at 45 or 50, considering your longevity, you'll have more number of years to fund yourself.
Yes.
Against a person who is retired at age 60. So that's a huge amount of money that you need. So it's not as easy as it sounds.
When you're planning for people who come to you, Harsh, how do you assign longevity? And just as a thumb rule, for somebody who's say 30, 35, 45, how long should they plan for their longevity?
So we're saying that you plan up to at least your age 80 years of age.
Okay.
So that what happens is if you've kept in mind that I have regular flow of money up till my age of 80. If you're not there before that, suppose if something happens to you at the age of 75, it's fine.
Yeah.
You've got 5 years of cash flow left, which is kind of a inheritance that your dependents can basically get.
Right.
The problem arises if you stay beyond 80. Then as per your calculation, you're running out of money.
Yes.
So at age 81, you have no money for yourself because you had planned it up till age 80. However, that's, I think, a reasonable assessment to make up to age 80. Otherwise, In ideal situation, you would like to plan for 90 years of age or 100 years of age, but the corpus required will be so humongous.
Significantly.
Yeah, so we're not talking about irrational stuff. We're talking about something that is doable within the reach of individuals. And at least till 80, you should be able to fund yourself.
So let's talk about that, right? So suppose in a hypothetical situation, somebody decides at the age of 25 that they want to be financially independent at the age of 45. They've assigned a certain amount of money every month, and that corpus has grown to what they need it to be at the age of 45. Now they have this large corpus at the age of 45. Where do they put it? In what instruments do they put it so that it gives them that regular monthly income?
Yeah, so then you have a couple of choices. So now you've got a corpus, say, which is a reasonably good corpus. And in metro lifestyle, in a metro city, if you're living, I mean, you would need to have at least 5 crores. I mean, I'm not getting into the specifics. However, but if you're retiring at 45 and you have to survive up to 80, then certainly you need something which is a reasonably good amount of money, which could be, say, 5 crores, for example. So you've got a corpus of 5 crores. Now, there are two objectives that you need to fulfill in this. One is that you want regular income, of course, so that this regular income on this corpus plus the reduced income pursuing your hobby, you're getting an X amount, which takes away household income. But can you let that 5 crores be stagnated at 5 crores? No, you need to have that to appreciate as well. Because you have a very long journey to take from 45 to your age 80. Okay. So the capital also needs to appreciate.
Right.
So now there are 2 or 3 things that you can do. Okay. One, if you're putting in a fixed deposit, that capital will never grow. Okay. But you'll have a regular income in the form of interest.
That's true.
Which is not an ideal thing to do at this juncture.
Right. Because it'll take care of your immediate needs, but it won't have capital appreciation.
Absolutely. So capital appreciation is something that you need to keep in mind. So the other factor is you could either buy a property, wherein you buy a property in the estimation that this property will also appreciate, the capital will appreciate, and you rent it out. So you get rent, which is a fixed source of income. I'm not getting into whether it is good or bad as an option. I'm saying what are the options.
Yes.
So we're not getting into the merits and demerits of each individual product.
Sure.
So one is, of course, you buy a property, as I said, and you rent it out. Okay. So there is a possible capital appreciation, and the rent that you receive regularly takes care of your day-to-day living.
Right.
The third option is, of course, you continue to be invested in equities.
Okay.
Why? There are 2 reasons. So some may think that investing in equities is very risky. So you're talking about capital appreciation. At one point in time, it could even go down, which is a fact.
Yeah.
And look at what is happening in the market.
In 2018 and 2019, yes.
Absolutely. So you may have an argument to say that I may not feel my capital is secured enough. However, you have to understand, if you accumulated 5 crores, one, you've accumulated over a period of 20 years. So you've got an average cost to this.
Yes.
Second element is, do you need the entire 5 crores today?
No.
You need this 5 crores over the period of next 25, 30 years.
And you also have the option at some point to continue doing something that earns you money, right?
Absolutely. So the capital that
it's not
is
a full stop.
Yeah. So the capital that is there in the form of equities, what you're going to withdraw today out of it in the form of a SWP, a systematic withdrawal plan.
Right.
You take out a fixed amount of money that you need to support and to just come back to the same normal of your income plus this returns. So do an SWP.
Right.
So you get a fixed amount of money to take care of your living, which is not the entire 5 crores. It is going to be a few thousands.
Yes.
And let the balance amount remain in equities. Sure that you might find at some point in time you will have reduction in value also. Sometimes it will be higher. But you have to look at it like this. You have averaged your purchase over the last 20 years.
Yes.
And you're going to require this money over the next 25, 30 years. So then why can't you take that kind of a risk? So there is a possibility of capital appreciation.
And that large corpus will continue to grow.
Absolutely.
Over a long period of time. Okay, so this is what we have to do essentially. And these are the options available. You enumerated 3. I think you would prefer to suggest the last option as the best option.
Ideally, yes. But because we are addressing a vast audience, I mean, they have different demographics. So there are the options subject to each individual's preferences and profile.
Absolutely. Now, having said that, I want to get to the moot point here, which I think is, can anybody achieve this, or is it something that only a few people can achieve?
Only those people who plan.
Okay.
So nothing comes to you without planning. Nothing comes to you without working for it. Unless, as you said, you've been extremely lucky. And we did speak about this movie Malamal.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, where suddenly somebody, is willed 200 crores to you. So unless you're in that bracket and you're just suddenly fortunate that, suddenly one day you realize that you inherited some 500 crores or 100 crores for that matter from somewhere, you can't go through it.
Just a small point, dear listener. This latest Bollywood reference by Harshvardhan Roongta happens to have been made in the first podcast that we made in this BQ Big Decision series. it has to do with the first steps that you need to take with regard to financial planning.
Absolutely.
But having said that, you were making a point.
Yeah. So the idea is nothing comes to you without planning, unless you're lucky, as I said. So if your question is, can everybody do this? Yes. If you've planned it and if you stuck to it and you're disciplined and you're committed towards it, you can surely achieve it. Now, if you're not going to plan for it and then suddenly hope I still want to do this, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Very clearly. And I think the entire effort of this podcast is also to educate people about it.
Yes.
And make them aware that you can do it if you wish. And it's nice that you're doing it on this particular day. And we're talking about financial freedom. And let's hope everybody gets that financial freedom.
Oh, well, let's hope so as well. And I think like any other goal, especially when we're talking about retirement and in this case, financial independence, the earlier you start, the better, because compounding is your best friend.
Compounding is magical. I mean, if you start, reaping the benefits of it, you know what it does for you. If you've taken a loan, there is somebody else that you're feeding with that compounding benefit.
So don't take a loan. Anyway, that's a conversation for a different day, of course. Harsh will weigh in on that. But, that more or less covers the conversation on financial independence. I'd like to thank you, as always, Harsh, for joining us on this conversation.
My pleasure, Alex.
Dear listener, that's all we have for you on this BQ Big Decisions podcast on financial independence. Do let us know what you think or simply hit the like button. If you'd like to hear more, do stay tuned to this space. Thanks for listening. This is BloombergQuint.
If you enjoyed Big Decisions, check out some other podcasts on the IVM Podcast Network. You can check out Paisa Vaisa, hosted by Anupam Gupta, Advertising is Dead, hosted by Varun Dugirala, the Ronnie Screwwala podcast, hosted by Ronnie Screwwala, or Cyrus Says, hosted by Cyrus Procha. These shows are available on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Do you have a night routine? Well, everyone has one. And the to-do list usually looks like this. Brush your teeth, set that alarm, get into your pajamas, and switch off those screens. But here's one more to add to that list. Tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast for a dose of positive action and tips on how to build powerful mindsets. Episodes out every Monday on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you tune into podcasts.
Are you constantly seeking happiness? Wondering how to make the most of every day? How not to let your inhibitions stop you from achieving your goals? It's now time to get your A game on. It's time to unlock your true potential. Tune in to the Empowering series with me, Zarina Poonawalla, to feel empowered in all genres of life. From behavioral skills to management skills. From health to relationships. From mental well-being to emotional well-being. And of course, your finances. I've got you covered. With these tips and tricks from me, Zarina, and true life stories from my amazing guests, you're bound to bring your purest to the table. Tune in to the Empowering series with Zarina Poonawalla every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.